Season 11 has arrived as we're pushing past 100 episodes of the Producer Podcast. To kick things off, I'm super excited to share our first ever debrief episode. Today, I'm joined by Scott and Diane Peterson, Ben Geiser, and myself, who make up the producing team of the film My Seven Grandmas, to talk about the making of the film, key takeaways, and favorite memories. So without further ado, let's get started. Thank you guys for coming on to the Producer Podcast today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, hi, thank you.
So, we're talking about the film My Seven Grandmas that we were all involved with. Maybe to start, in case there's people listening to this episode that have never even heard of the film, like, what is this film even about? So, just so they have context to what we're talking about.
It's a story of a 17-year-old girl, and she's living in California and just absolutely loves her life there. She's got all her friends there, and her grandma dies back in Minnesota. And the movie starts with her coming. Grandma died in like January. She comes back in like May for the burial because in Minnesota the ground freezes solid and you couldn't do a burial. So she comes back for the burial, and her mom finds out that her grandpa's life is just spiraling out of control. He's not taking it out the trash. He's not paying his bills, doing his laundry, taking his meds. He's a mess. So the mom says, we need to move here to help grandpa. And she's doesn't want to be here and she's miserable. She's a book nerd. So she goes down to the library and she meets these seven ladies that she thinks, okay, if one of these ladies is interested in grandpa, I can get her to marry them to marry grandpa, then I can go back to California. So that's the story basically of My Seven Grandmas.
So, before we dive into kind of stuff that happened making the film, I wanted to first kind of address the aspect of like what do producers do? Because when you watch a feature film, there might be 10, 15 people that have a producer title that were a part of the project. So maybe just we'll go around here and say like what your producer title on the film was, and then kind of like what aspects of the project kind of fell within your responsibility. Let's start with you, Scott.
I don't know that I do the exact definition of what a producer does in Hollywood, but I kind of do. Um, I take the movie from the very beginning to the end through the edit process. So from pre-production where you're working on location scouting and things like that, I'm involved in all that. I work on the set. I work so if anybody has a problem with anything, they bring it to me. First of all, to their department heads, and if that doesn't work out, then they bring it to me. And so problem solving throughout that whole process during the movie. Um, Helping with scheduling in pre-production and then in post-production working through the mill, getting the score in place, getting the somebody working the sound, watching the editor, making sure that that's moving along in a timely manner, and getting that whole process to the end.
And how about yourself, Diane? What was your roles?
I'd say Scott he's involved in a lot of the creative aspect of things too. Part of that's as producer and part of it is as writer.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not, on the other hand. My role is much more probably back office with a lot of the paperwork, handling the contracts, the different insurance policies that we put into place. Um, Doing the books, handling payroll, those types of things. This one, I also did a lot of the meals for the cast and crew, and we housed some people. So it was kind of all over the place, but generally my role is primarily with the paperwork and office stuff.
I'm pretty sure that Hollywood producers don't haul mattresses up and down stairs so that the crew can sleep, find and renting apartments and things like that.
No, you got to do whatever you got to do in this
Yeah.
industry to make the film happen.
So I'm Benjamin Geiser, Benji, and I was privileged to be the associate producer and the digital imaging technician for this film. And one big task that I remember, and it's kind of a fond memory, is I got to help boost morale on one day where we'd have to have a working lunch, and I took it upon myself to use some extra crafty supplies to make grilled cheese sandwiches in a Darth Vader apron, and then deliver them in part to the crew. And just the smile and morale boost to a lot of the crew on this long day. We were working long hours prior to this, working around a tight schedule that we couldn't really control or influence with a location, and just the joy and spark of happiness of that working lunch when I was handing out grilled cheese sandwiches is a very fond memory. And it kind of helped everybody get back into yeah, we can do this. We can all come together. We're all going to suffer a little bit, but at least we're suffering together, and we can still have fun. We can smile. We can enjoy the time. We can enjoy our work. And so that was a great memory from the production, and something I got to help problem solve with.
Yeah, no, that was a fun day on set. And then I guess I'll just throw out there, like, I was actually on this project too, so it's a little bit of a different episode. I'm actually talking about something that I worked on for
Yeah,
once.
I think you were the first one on set, weren't you? I think you rolled in first.
I
Well, Rachel was here a week before you, and then she left.
yeah,
But I
I
think
was either
you
the
were the
first or like the second one that
yeah to roll on in.
yeah, I helped manage a lot of, I guess, more of the day-to-day things, especially with all the schedule changes and a lot of those different needs there on the project. My next question, maybe kind of for both of you, especially Scott, since you were the writer on this one, but I know you've also written lots of other projects. So, like, how did you know this was the next movie you wanted to pursue producing?
Um, Boy, I've written a lot of them, a lot of screenplays, and so I think we ran some some of the scripts and the synopsises by the board. We're a nonprofit, so we have a board of directors, and I kind of sought out their guidance in that, and they overwhelmingly liked this script the best, this synopsis the best, because I think they felt it was kind of timely, and that it's a intergenerational
Mhm.
film. It deals with a 17-year-old, it deals with the mom, it deals with her dad, and then of course the grandma. So I think they felt that the message and then the gospel presentation needed to be out there.
Being even a part of the project, really thought about that of like the whole, you have all three kind of generations represented in the film, but I can see how that will hopefully work for years to come and lots of people finding the film and connecting with it.
And I think in part for this one too, you wrote this script in part with Jeff Allen in mind for the lead role of Grandpa, because you
Yeah,
had seen Jeff do some of his comedy,
yeah,
his stand-up comedy work, and share his testimony, and you just felt like he was it
yeah.
for Grandpa.
When COVID happened, I knew I was going to be at home for a while, so I'm like, okay, here's a perfect opportunity to take out one of my scripts. So I went through them, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick this one, and I wanted to polish it, and so go through and just do a rewrite. It's kind of fun because you're reading it again, and you haven't read it in a couple of years, so you're reading it just like a brand new person. It's like, I wonder what's going to happen to Gigi, because you forgot what you wrote, And so you're reading this again for the first time, and as you're reading it, I'm like, I had seen a bunch of Jeff Allen's comedy online, because he's got a great marketing team that puts it in front of your face. If you even think Christian comedy, it just there it is. So we're watching it, watching his comedy, and I'm like, oh, my word, he would be the perfect guy for Grandpa. And so as I'm rewriting it with him in mind. And so, I mean, seriously, I'm just visualizing he's Grandpa. And so then when it came time for casting, I'm like, all right, I'm going to take a long shot and try. And we wrote to him, and I wrote to him and I said, I don't know if you've ever considered acting before, but it's basically kind of the same as a comedy routine. You memorize the line, you practice the delivery of the line over and over and over, and then you go out and you deliver the line. Well, movie is kind of like the same thing, but a whole bunch of lines all strung together, like a comedy show. And he wrote back and he said, you know what, it's funny you should say that because I've actually been thinking about getting into acting. I started taking some acting lessons. And I really think that was kind of God nudging me towards him and nudging him towards acting. And it just was like perfect, perfect timing.
Yes.
And really the perfect fit for the role because
Oh, he is.
it's phenomenal, extremely natural, very engaging, and really the perfect grandpa here.
One thing I'd be curious to hear from the three of you, because all three of you were on your previous film, Treasure Lies. Was there anything that you had learned on that film that you were then coming in wanting or hoping to apply to making My Seven Grandmas?
That's a very good question.
And I know it was a long time ago too, so
Uh,
if
yeah.
you can't think of anything, that's okay too.
One thing that I wanted to bring forward from Treasure Lies was we had this emphasis on prayer and seeking the Lord's guidance. And
Mhm.
there was one day, especially on Treasure Lies, where Scott was rushing trying to solve something. I'm like, Scott, stop 2 minutes with me. Like, let's just pray. And that was definitely like the Holy Spirit prompting me choosing to be obedient to that calling, and just that simple prayer, knowing that we can cast all of our worries at the feet of the Lord. And Philippians 4, 6, and 7, we can let all of our worries be known to him, and his peace that surpasses all understanding will guard our hearts and our mind in Christ Jesus. And so wanting to carry that forward when our director got sick, when our director of photography got sick, like, we don't have time not to pray. We have to seek the Lord. We have to seek his guidance in these manners. And I don't know how successful I was on bringing that forward into My Seven Grandmas from Treasure Lies, but it was something that was active in my mind that I wanted to bring forward.
I think both Brett and Jonik did great as far as leading the crew as cast and crew as godly men. I was very impressed with both of them during.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both really made a point of starting every day with prayer and making sure that our focus was right when we started every day. So that has been a really important part, I think, especially in the last two movies where we have been led in that direction.
Another aspect or between Treasure Lies and then My Seven Grandmas was you shot Treasure Lies in Oklahoma and then you came back to Minnesota where you'd shot some of your other films to do My Seven Grandmas. Um, and I guess I was just kind of curious to hear like, you know, why you kind of made that decision and then like maybe what were some of the differences between producing a film in Oklahoma versus producing in Minnesota?
Yeah, I always joke that we went to Oklahoma to film there because they had five things going for it. They had a 35% rebate. They had my daughter, my son-in-law, and my two grandkids. Now we've got three, but we did it because I mean, hey, they have a rebate. Oh, we can go down there and film and be near the family during the whole time. And so it was a huge bonus being there with our family. But I think that the extra expenses of not being at our home base um, kind of out, not necessarily outweigh, but it was a wash on the 35% rebate. So we ended up spending more to have been there than we could have maybe saved that back home as what it kind of worked out to be. But that being said, Oklahoma was good to us. There's a bunch of churches that helped come to us and help feed us, and the location of the school. They literally they gave us keys to the school and said, "Here, go film there." And we could film in the lunchroom, we could film in the gym, we had a prom in the gym. You know, we had filled the lunchroom with kids eating lunch on trays, and it was just amazing. And then a convenience store. You know, but anyways, like I was saying, oh, and the fire department.
Fire department put on a rainstorm overnight one night. The police department helped out. The Chamber of Commerce was great in helping us make connections. And when it came time for theater showings, they had a bus booked to take a group down to the theater. so that they could be part of the theater showings. They're super supportive. Our theater showings, by the way, got shut down because of COVID, but they were super supportive. And part of that might be Oklahoma specific because they are so friendly and welcoming there,
The Bible Belt.
and the Bible Belt, but also a small town, a small community. They're very tight knit. They're very enthusiastic. It really was a wonderful place to be.
And Minnesota, though, I know the area, I know the locations, I know where I can find locations. We have our whole church family and our
Mm.
friends who all step up to provide food, meals for lodging,
Mhm.
locations.
Yep,
Yeah.
such a blessing.
Yeah.
I'll have to say, though, it was a lot cooler in Minnesota and less humid than Oklahoma in the summertime. And we didn't have all the tornado risks because we did actually have to deal with making sure we had a safety plan when there were different tornado warnings are rising in the area.
Benji was our weatherman.
Yeah.
Hey, I see a cloud. Check with Benji.
Yeah, I wanted to echo that bureaucratically, it seemed a lot more that people were a lot more genuine and helpful in Oklahoma. It seemed a lot easier to get favors and just things things done. People wanted to be helpful, and there wasn't the fear of or the well, that's not how the unions do it. And I felt that a little bit more in Minnesota, just being so close to St. Paul. There was a lot more of, oh, that's not how the unions do it. That's not how it should be done. And in Oklahoma, they were excited. They understood the mission of the film. They understood the calling and the ministry potential of the film, and so that was very comforting. And so there was a little more camaraderie from the few problems that I remember trying to solve in Oklahoma versus in Minnesota. I remember the one location for my 7 grandmas. They're like, this is the schedule. You cannot be here in early, like before hours. You cannot be here after hours. We are closed these days, and that was a challenge that we had to overcome. And I'm thankful that we were able to figure out a plan to overcome that. But my perception from Treasure Lies is that we might not have had those same hard brick walls, and that we might have had a little more openness and welcomeness dealing with a location of pre-hours or post-hours. But overall, like, it was a blessing to be a part of both films. It was amazing to see some of the aspects of the ministry that both films have had.
Now that you mentioned it, Diane, like I've never thought about like when you're shooting a film in places where like you're in severe weather season, like, oh, actually like needing plans, like if you're at this location or if you're at, this location, like what do you do? Where do you go? Like that. Now that's got my brain really turning.
Yeah. We had to let everybody know where the nearest tornado shelters were and what the weather is going to be like. And
Hmm.
well, you actually do that. The weather report, you do that all the time, but
Yeah.
never had fear of tornadoes in Minnesota.
No. Although Iowa's getting worse, so I don't know. Pretty
Oh
soon
yeah.
they might start making them up to you guys.
Oh, isn't that the name of one of your teams? Cyclones,
Cyclones.
isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the big things I wanted to touch on with everybody in this episode is something kind of unique that you guys did with My Seven Grandmas, which is part of kind of the like ministry aspect, I guess you could call it, of the film, was trying to help train up future filmmakers. And I don't think I've ever been on another feature film where that was like such a big part of like the mission of the film. I've been on ones where it's like, well, maybe that was happening because that's all they could find to, fill this crew position or whatever, but not where like from the beginning that was kind of something they set out to do. So I guess maybe to start, like, where did that idea come from and like what made you guys decide to give it a try on this film?
It's all kind of always been what we wanted to do is help train people. Like when we very first started, we started with the movie The Current, and we kind of got encouraged to go into production with our film by the Kendrick brothers. We saw their they're behind the scenes of the movie Flywheel, and it was made $15,000 with Home Depot lights and on a volunteer basis. Everybody's volunteering, and it's amazing. If you haven't seen it, it's their best message film. It's an amazing film. I think they're remaking it right now. But anyways, it's a great, great movie, and so we're encouraged by that. And we wrote to them, and they shared a bunch of paperwork and contracts and stuff like that to help someone that's a new independent filmmaker to along in the process. That here's what we did. Maybe you can do the same thing. And then so we're kind of hoping to do the same thing. And we've done that with our first three movies. Volunteer cast and crew for the first one, and then started paying people on the second, more on the third, quite a bit more on the third, and then the same with the fourth. But we're bringing people in underneath the paid positions to try to learn from them so that they can go out and make feature films. And in addition to that, this is not a part of IF Films Ministries, but Diane and I, are we have all the equipment that we've purchased over these years making films. We have a grip trailer now that we're going to loan out to people that want to make Christian films. Because it just sits there for 2, 3 years while we're not using it, let someone come and borrow it, take it away, film their film, and bring it back. So we're trying to do as much as we can to help the industry because we just think it's important to get these messages out there.
Well, and I think too, with this being the first film made through the nonprofit, through II Films Ministries, part of the mission of the nonprofit is not just to make the movies and make movies that are good quality films with a strong message of faith and encouragement and grace and Christ's love, but also to train up that next generation, because this is supposed to be something that's bigger than any person or group of people. It's supposed to be something that continues on to the next generations. There are a lot of people who are coming into faith through different means, whether it's a song or a friendship or a movie or whatever it may be. And a lot of people have the talents to minister in those areas, but they don't know where to get started. I think what's really fun is when people come in and they don't have any experience, when they don't have a background in film, but it's just something that they really feel like they want to do and want to try. They're there then because they want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're super excited. Everything's new. And that just makes things a lot of fun because there are no expectations. That person comes in with no expectations. And I think they get really surprised by how much fun they have, by the friendships they make, but by how they really know that they're making a difference. And especially not just the day-to-day work where they're working so hard and enjoying doing it, but then when they get to see the results of their work and it's something that lasts on screen forever and something that goes around the world, then I think they get the bug, and the fact that they had the opportunity to get started and have someone teach them different roles on set and maybe connect them to the next project, which we saw a lot of, especially out of My Seven Grandmas. There were people who had upcoming film projects and would take our newbies basically along with them or connect them and give them another opportunity. That's really fun to see, and that's something that has been carrying on beyond any one film project, any one film company, or any group of people. And so that's part of the heart, I think, of this ministry.
And the theory being that we like I donated the script to the nonprofit, we donated our time to the nonprofit, as did a bunch of other people, as did a bunch of the crew members, cast and crew. But then that whole thing, that movie is going to then hopefully make the money that we spent on it, make that back plus maybe some, but then that's enough money to make another movie. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be a perpetual motion machine, basically, of making perpetual motion pictures, keep making movie after movie after movie.
Definitely. Yeah. So then looking kind of then specifically at My Seven Grandmas, like in working with these kind of newbie filmmakers. Like, how do you think that went on the film? Are there things that either went really well? Are there things that you'd maybe tweak on the next film and, oh, we'd make sure to do this or, ask this question or things like that?
Well, first of all, I think everybody came in with such great attitudes, and they were really a fun group. Everybody got along so well, which is always just a joy to see. They're working hard every day, doing their part, and really pulling together to do what needs to be done. A lot of what you never expect you'll be doing, you end up doing when you come into a film set.
Mhm.
As far as things we learned that we would probably change about the training, um, we learned that we didn't plan enough for the training piece. And I think maybe job descriptions of some sort to start with, so someone knows how to get started. And if we can provide some sort of resources to get started, that might be really helpful because once you get into the thick of it on set during production, everybody's so busy and it's just hard to really go through anything very systematically.
Mhm.
Um, People still learn by doing and they learn from watching the other people around them. And it's fun to see how that progresses through production. But if we could help from the production team side by doing more planning in advance, providing them some resources and materials to help them get started, and to help the people doing the training get started and thinking about what can and should I teach this person to help them as they move forward. That's something that I think we'd like to do better in the future.
Give everybody a chance to get a run at the starting line, basically.
There was one young man that I remember, and I'm not sure he had a good expectation of what he was coming into. So, of course, when you pull in volunteers like that, you're always going to get, some exceptional people, some people that are fully bought into the project, and then a few people that I guess have misaligned expectations from the experience they're walking into. So I would like to echo and affirm what Diane was saying of a little more job description, uh, referring, links to YouTube videos that describe the position that you're asking them to do, um, and just a little blurb on how long and how grueling set days are, and because it is incredibly hard work to be there in the moment, at least 80%, 6 days a week, 12-hour days, um, and then switching to nights and back, like that's always a struggle for all crews. Um, I've been a part of crews that have shined at it, and I've been a part of crews with some rookies that just don't deal well with their normal schedule being disrupted. And I tried to come alongside them and encourage them. But I don't know everything by any means, but I tried to share from my past experiences to encourage them in the moment. And some people would receive that and others wouldn't. And ultimately I know that's on their hearts to how they choose to react. And I tried to just mirror the leadership and that I saw from our director, Jonick and Brett on both movies, and Scott and Diane, just mirror their gentle, caring hearts. Um, as an associate producer, I'm not at large and in charge at all, but I am there to be a helper, and I am in a service role. So I first need to be serving God. I second need to be serving the producers as a whole, and then third the production as a whole. So if I could run and get an energy drink or something, or if I had a spare in my bag or something, I would give that out willingly, trying to be an active encouragement to those that are not coping as well with the circumstances they find themselves in. So I was always blessed by Scott and Diane's leadership in that, and the spiritual leadership of our directors.
Even for me, like looking back at that too, I think one, I could have done better about trying to gauge or talk to some of the crew to figure out like what their knowledge and expectation was before shooting, because I know I went in like kind of with my own expectations of like thinking, oh, so and so, that's helping, my department knows these things, and they didn't always know that. And so yeah, then there were some of those frustrations of telling them something and then coming back later and it's not done and then realizing, oh, you've never done this before, like I need to help walk you through it the first couple of times. And then after that, they were great. I didn't have to, ask them to check this. They knew to just check it, or they knew to, when we got to a location, it's their job to pull this thing off the truck and get it set up. But yeah, I I also found it interesting. A lot of these the more newbie filmmakers all came in kind of just as like general PAs. And it was kind of cool by like the end of the first week, it was like this one was now like an art PA because we had found like
Yep.
they were
Right.
really good at this, and this one was helping the grips because he was
Yep.
really
Yep.
good there. And so that was fun to kind of see people like find the thing that they enjoyed or were good at and then kind of get to more focus on that.
Yep. That definitely happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of it is who they worked really well with too, because the people who were leads in those departments or roles were so good about embracing the PAs and picking up on interest and bringing someone in. So that was
Mhm.
really nice to see.
Yeah,
We had one situation that where this kid was, we didn't find out till like halfway or later, three-quarters of the way through the shoot, that he was living with his grandma down in Shakopee, so the further one of the further south suburbs, and we're filming in one of the further north suburbs. And so it just he was so tired by the time he got home, he decided to sleep in his car. And it's like if you had said something to us, we would have definitely, well, we would have for sure housed you at our house or found you some place to stay. But he never said a word to anybody. And then someone came to us, I think maybe it was Benji, came to us and said, "Did you know he's sleeping in his car?" We're like, "What?"
No idea. I think
Yeah,
I cried.
yeah, Diane, you did. Yeah,
wow, I don't think I'd heard that story.
yeah,
Oh.
And he never missed a day. He
yeah.
was always there,
Right.
always working hard.
Good kid.
Yeah. But that's what we see. And I think that's why for us as producers, like Benji said, we're trying to serve you. We're trying to serve our cast and crew. We know you're working hard. We know you're giving so much and sacrificing a lot to be a part of this. And so some of our biggest stressors are when we feel like we can't serve you as well as we'd like to, when we're cramming too
Mhm.
many people into our house, or we don't have the accommodations that we'd love to be able to give you, or we're failing in some other respect. I know our dryer went down during production. You guys might remember since you were both staying with us, and or Micah, you were staying with us,
Yeah,
and people couldn't do their laundry at my house, and I just was beside myself thinking they're all working so hard and I can't even give them somewhere to do their laundry.
You cried then too.
I did. Oh, I was a basket case. But it's just because we know you're giving so much and we want to do whatever we can to make it easier, or at least not make it harder for you, and support you and encourage you in any way we can.
yeah, I totally forgot about the whole dryer
Oh, it was
thing until you
awful.
mentioned
Like
it.
3 weeks.
Was it really that long? Wow,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I feel like another fun topic maybe to talk on is locations, because that's always a big thing that producers are involved with in the film. So I guess like two two kind of questions I have is like one, was there a favorite location you had from the film? Either just how the story came of us getting the location, or maybe just how this turned out looking in the film. And then also, is there like a location, especially Scott, you as the writer, that you're like, man, I wish I would not have written that into the script at all. It was just such a pain to find or,
Yeah.
film.
Well, you learn when you write that if you have like someone proposing in, Yankee Stadium, you change it for budget reasons to a picnic in a park, is where he's going to propose, so there's things that you can adjust in the script, but it's hard to get things like we had a hard time with finding a convenience store because we filmed probably at a convenience store for Treasure Lives for 7 days. So I know not to do things like that now, but for this one, we had really good luck with our locations. We found a church, and then they, for some reason, just all of a sudden at the last minute backed out. Found another church like that, and we went in there, and they're like, absolutely. there was a purchase that they had to make to that something that needed to be for the scene. They made that a pretty significant purchase. The church just did it so they could be a part of the movie, and it was just amazing that they did that. Um, they that lined up really well for us, and they were really really good to us. The other one, the library, they're an open business, and they're employees that have to go home at certain times, so they were only allowed to be in there when they're in there, and then only certain days because the room that we were filming in was booked other days. And so they gave us their schedule, and we worked around it as best we could. So they were very good to us. It's kind of hard to film in a library where everybody's supposed to be quiet all the time, you know. And so, but we did, and that was it worked out great.
They were amazing. And I met a bunch of the librarians when it showed in the theater.
Yeah, they came
So
out.
they came out to see it.
Yeah. Excuse me. The location that was my favorite was probably Grandpa's house. My I'm getting choked up. My buddy Eugene let us use his house for it was like maybe 14 days of the shoot or 10 days of the shoot or something like that, where we went in there beforehand, cleared out his furniture, put in grandpa like furniture and
Goodwill.
yeah, Goodwill and
stinky and musty
yeah,
and blah.
and just took over their house and they just let us do it. It was such a blessing to the project. And the one day that I feel terrible about, he said, we said, you know, when can we be in here? He's any day you want. You just let us know any day. And we changed the schedule, and it actually was during the time that they had a concert booked that they're going to go to in Red Rock in Colorado, and they just like, nope, don't worry about it. We'll cancel the concert. So they canceled their flight, sold the tickets so that they could be there. And it was just they bent over backwards for us. They were amazing.
It's crazy. I don't think I had heard that they like canceled their trip.
Mhm.
Yeah, I felt horrible.
I remember filming in like the downtown area outside the diner, and the director's there. I was there for safety, and so many people are moving around, and then uh, the director and DP are like, "Yep, we got it." And so then we all clear out, and then I turn around and I see our director running back across the road, and the DP like toting the camera right along behind him. I'm like, yeah. So then I immediately start looking for cars because the director and DP are like, oh, this shot would do it. And they were so excited in the moment, but I'm just like desperately looking for cars. I was like waving my hands, running across the street after them, trying to make sure that these two guys are safe for the rest of production. Just like, you guys are important. We need you. You can't just step out into the road. And so that was a bit of a fun. And then the diner actually catered the meal, and that was just a great meal of camaraderie and a bit of a morale boost, because just like it was kind of a normal meal, and the crew for that hour just got to hang out with each other in more of a normal setting. And then the magic of the moment ended, and it was just like back in 10, and then we all kind of got back into gear. But we had found our groove by then. We had found our rhythm, and so that was a fun area. And I also almost crashed my drone into the water tower, and I'm not sure that shot actually made it into the movie, but it was it was a gorgeous shot of that water tower. But my drone got really really close.
I agree. It was a gorgeous shot, but it did not make it. I'm so bummed.
It's okay. Some of those beautiful shots, those cherished moments, we worked so hard to get the drone insurance and the liability insurance for flying a drone over a small downtown area. Some of those shots that we worked the hardest for, if it doesn't serve the story and it doesn't serve the ministry and mission of the story, then we just have to make those sacrifices. It doesn't matter our emotion, how attached we are to that moment, or how hard we worked for it. We're serving the Lord and his gospel. And so we need to do what's best in the cutting room, in the editing for that mission.
Yeah, I had to cut my grandkids out of Treasure Lies, and that killed me.
You also had to cut me out of Treasure Lies, and I'm still okay with that.
You were out. I'm sorry.
Too, just so you know.
I will say it wasn't a film location, but I very much enjoyed staying at your house and like waking up every morning and like you could watch the sunrise over the lake. It was just like the perfect way
One
to start all those early mornings.
Yeah.
one thing I really enjoyed about having you all there was after production every day. People would come back from set exhausted, take their showers, usually take their turns in the massage chair. But then we'd usually dish up whatever was left over from lunch and all sit around and talk. And it was really enjoyable. We didn't always have those opportunities. Sometimes it was late at night, everybody just went to bed. But every once in a while, people would just sit around and talk and enjoy each other's company, talk a little bit about what was coming up the next day, but more or less just having fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, having everybody at the house. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, those were some good times. And sometimes it turned kind of into like working parties of like, hey, since you're all standing here, we have sides that need to be stapled or cut
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
I'll start kind of wrapping it up here with kind of a few final questions. I guess I kind of had three I wanted to touch on. The first one, more just for Scott and Diane, but this past summer, you guys went and did like, full out like red carpet premiere for the film, which it was really cool. It was the first red carpet I'd ever been to for a project that I had worked on and stuff. But like, I'm just curious to kind of hear your thought process behind it because that's one of the things nowadays with so many of the low budget films usually doesn't happen. They don't want to spend the money and the energy to do that anymore.
It all started with our first movie, The Current. We wanted to have a red carpet, and what happens with the red carpet? You get dropped off by a limo. So we thought, okay, let's have them dropped off by limo. But of course, with 30 cast and crew or 35 cast and crew, you can't afford 35 limos. So we had one limo, and it was behind the building. But we later learned the next movies we ended up with two limos. So we had behind the building, they pick up a star or a crew member, drive around the front, drop them off at the red carpet, go to the circle to the back of the building, pick up another star. And they were just driving around. So two different limos, driving all the different stars and dropping them off. And it's fun because we want to, as producers, we want to celebrate them,
Hmm.
celebrate the what they've done for the film, and their accomplishments and their role in the production. And it's a way to for us to thank them.
Hmm.
You know?
Right. Yeah. I think for us, our premieres we've always called them a cast and crew screening, because it's really about the cast, the crew, all the other people who made that movie happen. It might be someone who loaned us a location, someone who loaned us a vehicle, someone who let us use well, I guess that's loaning us a location, let us use their business, their home, who housed our people, who fed our people. All those people are typically invited as well as some donors, so that they can see what they were a part of. So it is for us always primarily for our cast and crew to celebrate you. We want you to be able to enjoy it, have fun, be treated in a way that is special and memorable, and where you also get to see what you've done, get to see your work, and just enjoy that time together, seeing old friends, because so many times after production ends, we're all scattered across the country. So
Mhm.
many of you were able to come back for this premiere, this casting for screening, and see each other again and laugh about old times and talk about what else you're doing. And to us, we just really enjoy that. We want it to be a special time for you, something that will kind of be different from the day-to-day grind, but also let you know how very much we appreciate you and that we know how much you've given. We want to give back a little bit.
It was definitely fun to see it, and I know like I got to meet like some of the post-production people that like otherwise I never would have, who
Yeah.
knows when I would have met them and had good conversations with them. So it was a fun time. I was glad I was able to make it up there.
Yeah, we were glad to.
So then, looking back on my seven grandmas, is there anything for any of us that we learned on the project that it's like next film project I want to do this differently or try it this way instead?
Um, Probably the main thing for us is some kind of a housing thing. We had 16 mattresses and bed frames that we hauled around and sets of sheets and pillowcases and all that stuff that we hauled around to locations of people who are letting us use their homes, and then some apartments that we rented and things like that. And I think next time we'll probably just to eliminate that mess of the production and the worry and the hassle, we probably just try to raise enough money to be able to afford like Airbnbs or something like that, or some different kind of housing setup. The one we had for Treasure Lives was ideal, but because it was kind of fun, we were all in the same location. It was an apartment complex that rented out on a daily basis, like a hotel does, and we all stayed really close to each other. That was ideal, but I don't know that we'd ever find anything like that. But it'd be fun to, excuse me, on this next project to try to find a different kind of a housing setup.
I think on this one too, you know, this had a lot of challenges and delays in post-production, and we can kind of beat our heads against the wall over that and sometimes do, but then we see that God brings it all together the way he wants to in his timing. And I really feel like this movie came out at the time that it should. I know it's not fully out there yet. We're still working on that, but we were able to show it in a theater for what started as 1 week and was extended and extended. So it became a 3-week run. It was right after the time that Charlie Kirk was killed. Our run started, I think, 2 days later. And we kind of wondered what impact that would have, if this was appropriate to bring this movie out at that point. But people seem to comment to us that they believe the world really needed to hear that right now. And we had, an average of about 110 people there a night, I think, for a while.
It was
first
amazing.
week. People just poured in, and they were just seeing it listed on the theater marquee or on the theater website. They watched a trailer or read about it in the local paper and just kept coming in. People had no connection to the project. And I think it taught me a lot about God's timing and that he does things the way he wants to. So that's something I want to make sure I take into the next project. Trust him a whole lot more with all the details and with the plan.
And then that one lady came up to you at the show after one of the showings.
Yeah, I mean, that was just something that's really memorable for me. Walking away from my 7 grandmas. When we did have the theater showings, we always talk to people there. Scott and I try and show up to every showing and just ask people how they heard about it, if they have some connection.
We hand out a flyer about the nonprofit.
Yeah, and we hear the stories, and there was one friend who came up to us, and we were just talking for a few minutes, and she had been to the premiere, and then she came back again, and she said, this sounds bad, but this kind of makes me want to start going to church. And I said, well, why would that sound bad? She said, because I don't go. And I said, well, that's okay. Anything, you can start anytime. And she said, I guess it just really made me think about what I want to do. And maybe I'm not ready to dive all the way in, but I can just dip my toe in the water a little bit.
Which is a line from the movie, so.
Yeah, and she was just, letting us know that this had impacted her. So for me, that's something I for sure walk away from the whole experience with. We can stress out over all the details.
Mm-hmm.
We can do everything right or wrong, but God is going to do something if we're obedient and if we just get out there and do it.
The Christian films have always been a blessing and a ministry to me. And I've always held it in an open hand because I know that it's a gift from God and that I wanted to steward my time in Christian films very well. And recently coming to that realization of knowing that Treasure Lies and My Seven Grandmas were two of the last three movies I got to work on. And I will remember those years forever with a lot of good memories and a lot of ways that I think I could improve not only other aspects of my life, but just what stories were told in those films and how those lessons can still cope with me. But what I would like to see on more sets moving forward is more grilled cheese sandwiches. I think having a hot grilled cheese sandwich, like having the crew be excited, be like, it's grilled cheese day at Crafty. And like, it doesn't have to be anything complicated, but like just little things that the crew can count on just to lift morale. Honestly, I think that day when I put on that apron and I started making grilled cheese sandwiches was a highlight for a lot of the crew. Just my willingness to, the morale is kind of a problem. I'm a producer. I need to help try to solve this problem. What can I do? If I need to look silly in a Darth Vader apron and cook some grilled cheese sandwiches, I'm going to do it with a smile on my face and joy in my heart as I'm serving the crew.
I guess I would kind of echo what Benji was saying there. Not only with like the grilled cheese, but I know there was also times we were doing, kind of like the mealtime reward of like, who was somebody on the crew that was like we had seen like the previous day going above and beyond, and I think we gave them like a candy bar or something. But there's just a lot, a lot of things like that. That like you go to film festivals and you hear, other producers or directors like talk about like how big of a, morale uplift like this small thing can be. And you sometimes sit there like, is that worth the little bit of money I'm gonna spend, or does it really like affect the crew that much? And so to then finally be kind of on a set where I got to see, and be involved in some of those and like, okay, this does like work, I want to try and do that more on future productions was really cool for me.
I worked at a photo studio a long time ago, and it was like tons of photographers, tons of assistants, and we all were working to get this, catalog out. And the photographers would hand out an attaboy, and whenever you got the attaboy, you kind of strutted a little bit, like, yeah, I got an attaboy.
Oh, I was just going to say, you two were both so great about that, about the way you worked with the cast and crew and the way you served everybody. It really did make a difference.
Well, like for example, I got in our drip truck, and there was a thing of I don't know, radiator that you pour in the radiator and it stops a leak. And I'm like, oh, what's this? And Benji's like, yeah, you had a radiator leak, and I fixed it. And I had no clue because it didn't need to get to my level. It didn't, not my level. He didn't need to tell me and worry me because I had enough on my plate. He just took care of it.
Yeah.
My final question, kind of wrapping up, is just like, what's one or two favorite memories that everybody has from filming My Seven Grandmas?
I'm gonna go with two. One is that it's harder to get a strike in bowling than one would think. We had a camera on the lane, and we probably 50 times we missed nobody got a strike, and they kept resetting, and finally we pulled a guy from the front desk of the bowling alley, and he did a strike. But anyways, that's one. It's harder to do that. But then the other thing is, so we brought in the seven grandmas, and they didn't know each other. None of them knew each other. And by the end, they had developed such a friendship that we joke that if we had them on set one more day, they would get matching tattoos or something. They got along so well. They're on a text string. They text back and forth still to this day, constantly. And it's just amazing that how that friendship developed. But that friendship that they developed is everybody on the set. Everybody just getting along so great. That was a fun set to be on.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was so much fun to just watch everybody bond. It seemed to me like at the end of the movie, Kate really did have seven grandmas that she would be in touch with forever. And that's one of the things I love most about Christian filmmaking is the memories that you make with the individuals who you just learn to appreciate so much, all of their talents, their gifts, but also their grace, their personalities, their humor, um, and their passion for doing this. One thing I think Scott will describe better than me is a memory we have from when the two of us were out sick one day.
Oh,
Both of us had COVID, so we had to be quarantined at home on one day we really, really, really both wanted to be on set.
yeah.
But
It,
here's what God did with
yeah,
it.
it's an emotional scene. That's all I really can say without being a spoiler. But it's an emotional scene that it affects Grandpa. And I've known this character that I've written for 4 or 5 years, or since I first started writing him. And I know the way the guy thinks, and so I know Grandpa. And Jeff Allen, the actor that portrays Grandpa, he he wanted to bring some of his life experiences into the emotional scene. And um, I'm like, okay, let's film it the way it's written, and then we'll film your version, and if we have time, kind of thing. And because I wasn't sure how quickly that'll get filmed at that scene, because it's a pretty emotional scene from all sorts of different angles. And anyway, so it was filmed, and it we were out that day, and I joke that God struck us down with COVID so I wouldn't mess things up on set, like. And so it was filmed, and it was filmed beautifully. And Jonik was able to mesh the two versions together, and it's just a scene that just absolutely works on film, and it's just phenomenal. It's super emotional, and it wouldn't have happened if I don't know that it would have happened that way if I had been on set, because I would have been like, well, that's not the way I wrote it, kind of thing, then not be a servant to the story, just I should have just, which worked out, But like I said, he struck us down with COVID.
Yeah, God works in mysterious and wonderful ways.
Yep.
That's for sure. Yeah, I think for me, two memories I have. One is I didn't realize how big of a fan of Taco John's Scott was before signing on to the crew, and
I love me my
I think
potato
we
ole.
went there like every day during pre-production for one of the meals, and I think I had tried like everything on their menu by the end of the shoot. So yeah, so I definitely won't forget that. And then the other one, we were filming at the like college, those like hospital room scenes. And I
Mhm.
remember somebody like asking where Grandpa went because they couldn't find him. And we looked outside and he had gone out to get something from his car, but he was still in the full hospital gown, like bandages and everything on. And we're just like, we really hope nobody sees that and like calls it in that like some nursing home lost a resident or something.
That's
That's
funny.
great.
One fond memory I have from production was all from that same set. In the hospital scene, the art department was trying to figure out like art pieces, like posters and paintings and stuff to put on the wall. And um, the lead of art department and I were just talking one day, and they're like, "Dude, I have no idea what to do with this." And I'm like, "Well, I've done a whole bunch of traveling," and I just opened up my photo reel and handed them my phone, and they're just scrolling and they're texting pictures to themselves. I mean, it's like architecture, windows, things, just random things, but like pictures that I took in random, seemingly random travels got to be a part of the set. And it was humbling that like God knew this was going to happen. God knew that I
Right.
was going to
Yeah.
travel to this cathedral and take this picture of the ceiling, and that we could tweak it a little bit in Photoshop, print it out the size of a poster, and that it would look fitting on the wall. That these were pictures that I took, that I had full ownership of, that I could give to the film, and that I could help solve this problem. Not knowing that this problem was going to exist the years prior when I was doing this traveling, just it was such a beautiful moment. And I was so honored that a few pictures that I took are on the walls. And I don't think they're on screen really in a meaningful way at all, but it was it was such a cool moment how God arranged all of that, and that he put all the pieces in place years ahead of time for us all to be there in that moment, that we could all volunteer of ourselves to serve that story. And kind of tagging off that, there were several of the very bright-eyed, eager young people that were on the first movie set with us, with my seven grandmas, and to see the growth and to see the development, not only in skills and understanding what film is, but then also just spiritually, just having them be called to think about the ministry of this story that we were telling on a daily basis. It was encouraging to see God use those morning Devo moments and this movie as a whole while we were filming it to impact the crew and to help them see the vision of why Christians need to tell stories that honor, glorify, and point back to God.
Mhm.
I'm sure we could probably spend hours talking about so much more with this film, and I mean, we didn't even touch like post-production or any of that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here for this episode. But once again, Scott and Diane and Benji, like, thank you very much for coming onto the Producer Podcast. And with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Producer Podcast. Come back each Friday this spring as season 11 of the show continues. Make sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to the Producer Podcast on YouTube, and until next time, thanks for listening.